We're going all in, baby.
All in.
Welcome everyone to a Mere Mortals musing session. As we talked about in our last musings, these are going to be more structured, more focused. There's a central theme for today. My name is Karen. I've got
one over here. I prepped 0% for this.
Yeah,
so as you can tell, we've started with the
very absolute Mere Mortals.
Yeah. We're like, we're gonna. The next podcast.
We'll put in a bit of effort.
Be effort. I'll put in about 3 minutes for everybody.
That's all right. I've got you covered. So today we're talking about the psychology of going all in.
Yep. All
in, baby. So why
you have to make sure you define that as well.
Oh.
I think define in terms of why you thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So why this came up. Yep. So I was reading a book, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, by. Who do you want to guess that's by?
No idea.
Tolstoy.
Okay.
Tolstoy. And thank God it's not one of the normal Tolstoy thick-ass fat books.
Yeah, okay.
Because I accidentally... I got this one. It wasn't accidental, but I thought it was Dostoevsky.
Okay.
And I've read War and Peace. I've read Anna Karenina. I'm probably not going to read them again. It's just... it takes like 3 months to read those books.
No thanks. Is it worth it, though?
It's hard to say. The story is... pretty fantastic for some of them. In War and Peace, you will actually learn a lot about history because it's all about Napoleon going to Russia.
Yep.
So, it's sort of fictional. Well, it's very fictional, but you do get to learn a lot about...
Which slivers of, reality?
It's like that historical or realistic fiction, something like that.
Gotcha, okay.
Event that actually occurs, but not... he didn't have access to Napoleon's conversations and things like that. So, anywho... This book was by Tolstoy, and there was actually one section in there which it wasn't the death of Ivan Ilyich, because it's essentially a bunch of short stories. Think about 8 or 9 in total.
Okay.
And there's this one section talking about Father Sergius, and
Father Sergius.
I've forgotten the actual name of the story. I should look that up. Oh well. Anyway, it was essentially talking about this guy. He was not a prince, but, sort of wealthy landowner. His parents had connections and whatnot. He himself was a dude who everything he did the hardest. So he went to the corps that they had at the time, the, martial corps or whatever, training to be an officer. And he was the guy who would study all night to get the best scores. He was the best student. He was the best at horse riding, the drills and all those sorts of things. The only thing he really had wrong with him was a temper. He just had a really bad temper. And essentially, it talks in this book about how he's going through life. He then finds the social scene and is like, oh, you can actually get better at, rising through the court. So the sort of politicking, bureaucracy, social interactions. I'm going to be the most charming, the most handsome, the most well-read. I'm going to be, etc., etc. So it's a dude who just... when he finds something, he puts his all into it. He has a heartbreak, essentially, where the girl who he thought was pure and, was this amazing woman, she was actually a mistress to the emperor. So he was like, fuck you, bitch. I'm out of here. I'm going to go be a monk. And he goes his hardest as being a monk. So this is where we got into the real interesting part of the story for me, which was he devotes himself to monkhood, and he gets to this point where he is... going as hard as he can. I'm just about to get shut on by a crow as well.
It's going to be the greatest bit of the video.
Why one was looking up. Where he wants to be a monk, so he's going hard at it. He's going all in on being a monk. So he first joins the order. He studies as much as he can. He's trying to humble himself.
Trying his best to be a monk. Yep.
As best as he can. He then realizes, this isn't good enough. I need to go into solitude, essentially. So he goes into this cave, and he's just trying to meditate there, and he's trying to forget about, lust. He's a very lustful dude. He's trying to forget his pride, because he has this pride of people were coming up to him and treating him as an oddity.
Yeah.
And this is where the part I found fascinating, which was a psychology of going all in. Is it good? Is it bad? What are some things that can occur from this? So,
of course, yep.
I've got a list here of some good things, some bad things. Are there any thoughts that come to you from the top of your head about going all in psychological wise, and maybe how that affects you in the real world, practically as well?
Yeah, I mean, what came to mind straight away with the premise of going all in, at least for me, was a definition of like, okay, when I'm saying going all in, it doesn't mean you go and give all the effort that you can in one aspect, and then you go do something else and give all aspects. I want to make it like, are you saying it's like the definition of going all in where it's like, no, you're going to give up working, you're going to give up seeing people because you're going to train non-stop? Or is it going all in at the different modalities, the different things that you do across your day?
Yeah, no, I would say more the going all in the type of, not necessary for a lifetime. That's a different type of thing.
Yep.
So, i.e., the monk who actually goes and, a vow of silence for the rest of his life, or a vow of chastity for the rest of life. That's definitely going all in.
Yeah.
But I'm talking more about the type of personality where you will find something, maybe you get really excited by something, and let's just take a real example. I got very excited by podcasting 2.0.
Yep.
Now, did I go all in on that? No, because I was still training every day. I would still go and see my family. I would still do etc. etc. So I'm talking more about the person who, yes, will devote a large portion of their life, let's just say a year or years, to being the best CrossFitter, to they want that PhD, and they want everyone else to know, I'm the fucking man. I got this.
Well, it's not so much
PhD.
that they want to know other people. You might be doing it from intrinsic reasons of like, oh no, I have just an overwhelming wanting to be an Olympian, and I'm going to do all I can, not for the adulation of people, but for the fact that I want to be able to achieve that.
And that's what I want to explore. That the good things, the motives behind going all in, the good things, the bad things, etc.
So I think I'll keep it at the broad first. So I think the all in, where you go, okay, I want to be the best soccer player in the world, and I'm going to do this regardless of everything. So I'm going to stop seeing people. I'm going to stop trying to do studies. I'm going to try and stop and do whatever else. No, it's going to be everything focused on just the purpose of getting this particular one thing that I want to achieve in your life. I think it's almost certainly like ruled to be doomed. Apart from the very few people who successfully pull that off. So I think just straight away I'm like, look, if you want to go down that path, unless you are that elite level, genetically gifted, just the person that's supposed to go ahead and do that, and there's an overwhelming bias to the success that we hear in the media, okay, there is a slight sliver of chance. There's also a slight sliver of chance you're going to hit by a lightning bolt. Like, that's also a chance, right? So just remember that there is a chance, but just because there's a chance, it's not the best outcome to go down the path of going all in.
Here's a question for you. What percentage of all in, so let's just say there's a barrier point, right, where we would say, okay, yeah, that dude's definitely all in. What percentage of those people do you think over let's say a 5-year period of their going all in at this certain thing actually succeed at what they're trying to do? So this is trying to get into the English Premier League, trying to get
I would say it's more like, of the population on Earth, the people who would be committed to do something like all in would be 0.1% of all population.
Okay.
But then 0.00001% of those people would be successful in their endeavor. So is it going to be a very small portion of humanity who would actually go all in, and then an incredible small fraction that then would actually go on to succeed.
Yeah.
But then their next all in, I'd say that one for me, I'm like, nah. I almost see no positives unless you've already got some strong bias towards it succeeding. Like, if you're just absolutely genetically gifted for whatever purpose it might be, let's say sports, okay, you might consider going all in because you're going to make it almost no matter what. You just got to dedicate yourself to it, and you'll do it. Like, it's going to happen. But then the stepping back from that all in, more in the sense of, okay, you're doing a few different things in your life. Like, let's say you're still trying to work and you're still trying to train, and you're trying to podcast, or you're trying to run a side business, whatever it may be. But when you're doing it, in that period, you're all in the sense that you're not working and also trying to talk to another person about this other thing, or you're studying about podcasting 2.0 and also looking into NFTs and all that. No, when you're doing whatever you're talking about, now you're all in. You're like single-minded focus onto that. Multitasking doesn't exist there. You're just so hardcore in. There, I'm like, okay, maybe the amount of people that would do that, I'll say 30% of the population who are successfully doing it, I'd again go down to like 1%. So maybe there's a lot more people doing that. And I would say that one has overwhelming positives in comparison to maybe some of the negatives.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would kind of be my little take.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to first go down what came up in the book. So what really triggered it for me was, Father Sergius, he's in his cave and he is trying to become, I guess, like the most pure person that he can be.
The eminent monk.
The eminent monk, yes. And the problem with this, though, is there's this one scene in particular where this random hussy comes in and she tries to seduce him, essentially. And because she'd heard, Father Sergius, like, he's a handsome dude.
He's trying to be the best. So he was supposed to be a handsome dude. Okay,
a handsome dude, and also, like, you know, he's out here for a reason. He doesn't talk to women. Like,
it's like a challenge.
Yeah, it's essentially her being a bitch and be like, I'm going to tempt him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he has this, you know, crisis where he really wants to have sex with her.
Yep.
And he hears of this parable in one of the books or in the Bible or something where a guy held his finger over the flame to, you know, distract himself, prove his willingness to endure through pain, to use pain to distract himself from this lust and temptations.
Uh-huh.
He tries that, it's not enough, so what does he do? He gets an axe, bam, cuts off his finger.
Nice.
Now this nice. Now the girl, when she sees this, is so impressed by this that she herself gives up her philandering ways as a countess trying to
sounds like bullshit. What kind of made up story is this shit?
It's fiction, man.
Tolstoy, man, needs to...
Yeah, what a shit writer.
He needs to get better at writing something that's more realistic. God damn. This is what I hate sometimes about... Some people will say, like, they'll be in a mood and really love the way that somebody writes, right? And it's a fiction story. Totally true. Dude, that is not human. That is not how human psychology works. There is no way that a person goes to cave or whatever it is, where this dude is, as a monk. You see him chop his finger off and you go, you know what? That's impressive enough that I'm going to stop my ways. There is... Almost no humans out there do that, right? There is no humans. Have you met people who do this?
Well, I haven't met.
Have you met people who do this?
I haven't met someone who's cut off their
finger. Can you imagine an individual, like the female, who would go and do this and be like, "Yes, I'm going to. You've turned me right now to completely devout my ways."
I don't know, man. People are weird.
Fucking Tolstoy. Hang on, continue.
Anyway, he gets fame because of this,
Yep.
and so people here like, wow, he convinced this, crazy. Through his actions alone. He didn't even try and convince her with words. It was through his actions. He turned this impure lady into a pure one. She is now a nun. And the funny thing was, like, it got me thinking, okay, pragmatically, going all in might not be a great way to achieve your end goal. So he's trying to be the most pure, the most perfect monk, essentially, in this story. Now, what happens is he gets his fame, and so people start coming to him. People start asking him to bless their children. People start begging him to, cure their ailments. The church gets involved because they see, there's a money-making opportunity, so they start looking after him. Before, he used to only eat the scarcest of black bread, but then they convince him, no, you need to keep your spirits up. Eat this good food as well. You don't have enough time to do your daily rituals, your prayers, the hard stuff. You need to go out and speak with the people of things like this. So his own dedication to being pure ended up flipping around, and he was then bombarded with temptations, bombarded with external forces, which are forcing him from being pure. So I really like that aspect of thinking, what happens? Is it actually the best strategy to go all in to achieve your aim? Because it might not actually pragmatically work. So I've got a couple of things here, and I wanted to see if you agree with them. So some more temptation. So say you're a very charitable person and you want to do the best that you can for other people. Well, one of the ways you can actually do this is by earning money, by going out and earning money from people to give to charity.
Yep.
But if you go down that route, you can find yourself getting sucked into focusing on the money and then sort of neglecting the part that the money is meant to help the other people. So
well, then I would suggest you're not going all in.
No?
Well, that's what I would say. If you, and then this is where you got to, actually define this, because the fact of you going all in into something like giving away money, if you then deviate from that because the money then takes over and you're like, oh, well, actually, I'm really enjoying getting this money and doing something, you've now removed yourself from going all in.
What about...
almost a temptation of going all in has caused, like you're saying, has caused these other streams to come through, and now you've been deviated to do them. Yes, it does pose that challenge. Going all in poses the challenge, but it's not related to going all in. That challenge would be created if you're successful.
I think you're looking at it. So what I'm saying is, you've got this mindset I'm just doing it as hard as I can. sort of no excuses type of thing.
Yep.
Here's another one. You want to be the most fit person on earth, and so what you do is you train every single day, no excuses. Your body's beaten down and bruised.
Doesn't matter.
No
Keep
excuses.
on doing it. Yep.
I would argue that that's not the most... You're not going to reach your end goal of reaching that pinnacle of strength, of fitness, of physique, of whatever it is by doing that. I would argue, no, the better way of doing that is by recognizing some days, you know what, you probably do need to take off. Some days you probably do need to, etc. So I think there's
but here's my play. So you say that, but it's not reality. Like, nobody would sanely think that to be the most fittest person, you have to just be exercising non-stop.
I think there are.
So I'm imagining you do that, you realize that that's not successful, and then you go actually all in. Like, let's say all in would be you are training as much as you can, and in the off chance that you're not training, you're recovering as hard as you can. But it's not like in that recovery you're just choosing to like, oh, I'm going to go for a trip. No, you're like hardcore. You're in ice bath. You're recovering in Normatec boots. You're doing maybe a gentle walk to recover yourself. Everything is committed purely to the act of you becoming a better person. That to me would be like, okay, that's all in still. That's all in.
Yeah, no, I disagree, because I think there's an aspect of the all-in mentality, which is you need to put the blinders on. You need to say, I'm doing this and this only. There's no room for nuances. That's a nuance. You can't have that nuance of relaxing. What if it's, for example, that same person and they're going as hard as they can at relaxing, but then they realize like, oh, you know what? You can't even go all in at relaxing, because you need to actually de-stress at some point. If you're going as hard as you can to relax, that's not relaxing. That's the opposite.
Yes. Yep.
So what I sort of see it as is that single-minded focus where it's like, no bullshit. I got to do this one thing. This is how I'm going to do it. And yeah, I think you're adding in the nuances which I'm saying get neglected. Those new, because there's all that uncertainty as well. Like, how do you know how much you should rest? How do you know how much research you should do to do how much? So
could you give me an example of who you'd suggest? Like, who's the person who went all in?
So Sam Harris for a while. Sam Harris went all in trying to examine the mind and, become, I guess, chase enlightenment in a way. Okay. So he wanted to become enlightened. So he went on meditation retreats. He himself has said he's spent more than a year in deep meditation and silence and whatnot. And he was... Does
the fact that he didn't do it every single day for like his whole life though point to you like, oh no, he didn't really go all in because he didn't do it every single waking moment?
No, I think if you're...
Or it's just like a portion, it's a on the high end of the all-in scale.
I think if you're spending 3 months on a meditation retreat, that's...
But why not 12 months? Well, like, why isn't that, like, in your scenario of like, if someone wants to be the fittest person, train every single day. So why in his example is 3 months, oh, that's enough. Why isn't that 12 months? 12 months would be all in.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, no, I think using that methodology, then you could be like, oh, no, 12 months isn't all in. 6 years is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's like, and I think it's the concept of like, oh, this is what all in is kind of bullshit, because you can just it's so varied. Like it's every single day for the rest of your life. It's 12 months for this particular time period or whatever it may be. I think more what I'm saying is like, okay, the all in concept, whatever that may be, how fruitful it can be.
Okay, I think I know what the difference is.
Hey, do you?
That's so funny.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna.
We're taking a pause here.
We're taking a pause here, folks. We're taking a pause here.
How lovely.
And we are back again, folks. Me and Mortal. That's it. We took a little pause there. And look, I'm going to call out before we continue into this of the going all in that we're talking about. We had someone just stop by. We've been out and about. They stopped by, gave us the name, and said, it was really cool to hear, like, actually have someone in Brisbane stop by and be like, "G'day, I listen to you every day."
Yeah.
Boom. That's cool.
Now, actually, here's a funny thing of going all in. Yep. So, like, if we were all in podcasters, we would have kept going.
We wouldn't have stopped. I'm going to go with the stretch here. We're trying to define all in, and it is a hard concept. I'm going to say that the more all in you go,
the more nuanced you get, maybe?
No, I'm going to say the more you want to do the particular activity you think you're going all in, the worse it's going to work out for you in a statistical method. So I'm going to also say, And if Sam Harris did 12 months, like every single day straight, I think he could. It's more probable that he would have less success than going 3 months all in. That's kind of my view.
Yeah.
But there's a balance. It's like there's a level of balance. Like you're so in, it's very low chance it's going to work out. And the more you pull back, it starts almost getting like to the optimal level, and then you start pulling back even more, and then it reduces the optimal level of it again.
Yeah. So to finish that Sam Harris story, essentially there's that same concept. He got to this point where he felt like he was grinding his gears. He was sort of recognizing that the more effort that I'm putting in this particular aspect of trying to meditate, of trying to completely calm the mind, the more he would start to notice the times when he wasn't in that state.
Yep.
And it's like more psychologically damaging because he's now realizing like, oh shit, it's right there in front of me. So it's almost like, you know, the better he got at it, the worse he could see himself, sort of thing. I was going to say before, like, I think maybe the difference is when I talk about the all-in mentality, the psychology, I'm imagining a person who is getting lesser in their nuance. So they focus on this one thing. I'm going to be the biggest celebrity because I want to, you know, connect with people. Essentially, I want to have the most connections with people out there.
Yep.
And so they become famous. They do that by honing their craft at acting and whatnot. And yet, the more famous you get, the lesser you're actually going to be able to connect with people in a way, because people are going to treat you completely differently.
Yeah.
You'll think this is what the common man is like, but you haven't had a conversation with the common person
man for a long person. Yeah,
in you know, God knows how long. So I sort of, that's how I sort of see the mentality, is that you focus really hard on one thing, and it sort of like slips in your mind, and you have a strategy to do that, and you pick that one strategy and you just go at it as hard as you can.
Right, okay.
And you don't have the nuances to see, you know, I'm going in this strategy and it looks clear, the vision looks clear, the path looks clear, but you're not noticing that you've actually deviated off to a side path, which is taking you away from the main thing that you wanted. So it's almost like you lack that course correction. So this is why I was, I found it just fascinating that you can be all in, but that's maybe not the correct way of getting the best thing.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Like what
not
you're
being
actually
the most ideal way of doing it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say also, what are the pros of being all in?
Yeah, I've got a couple here. So one, I think, is incredibly liberating to not make decisions. So I'm going to exercise every single day.
Yeah, like that's it. That's what's happening.
That is very, very liberating in a way, because there's no out. There's no bullshitting around. Your own mind can try and convince you, but if you've got that hard gap, that hard stop that says, I'm exercising every single fucking day, that has a liberating factor in it. Yeah. Now, I could also argue, I'm not going to say I would argue, I could argue that today, for example, like there's the person who says, let's just take an extreme example, a heroin addict. They completely stop heroin. I'm all in on not doing heroin anymore. Yep. I know that
all in on being clean
leads to a very bad life. I would say, the stronger person in a way, so let's just say a person who wants to do the hardest thing, they probably actually should try some heroin in their life. So like the alcoholic, if you want to say like you've got the strongest mentality, if you've got the best lifestyle, you don't want to let alcohol ruin your life. When you're all in like that and no alcohol, it actually is not the complete optimal, because it should be all right to just have a social drink. Yeah. So almost like the stronger you are, but then there's that opposite side, which is the beneficial side of being like, it is what it is. Like, I'm not going to have a drink anymore for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. Do you have anything which is like, I'm never doing this again, or I'm always doing this for the rest of my life sort of mentality?
Yes, but as we've probably seen from our own past, things that could change ultimately. Like for me, in my mind, I can't see a day where I'm not working out once a week at the very least, right? I'm not working out every single day at the moment, but I'm working out 6 days a week. Just almost for like, dude, there's probably been like 1 or 2 weeks in the last couple of years where that didn't happen. So for me, it's like, oh, well, I'm always going to do that. Could it happen that I don't do that at some point? Maybe it could happen. But that would be for me. I'm sure there would be similar things for you like that.
Yeah, for me, probably like the number one is porn.
Yep.
I had a real problem with porn in my early 20s, and there was one time where I was like, recognized like this is just so bad for me, like physically wise, mentally wise. I have some real distortions
like
of
dependency
what,
and
dependency, just pure time wasting as well. And so it got to the point where I was like, it's easiest for me just to never view porn again. And so that was about more than 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And I find that like very liberating in that it's just like it's not going to happen again.
That's like the all in. Yeah.
But you know, if I wanted to like be the strongest me possible,
you should tempt yourself a couple of times.
I should tempt myself and prove to myself that it's not. But
it goes away from the. Like I get that, but I think that then the all in there is you thinking, I'm here to be all in, to be the strongest at this particular mindset. But the all in concept is that it should be, hey, it's me that actually isn't going down the path of doing this in the first place. And if you're not doing it, cool, you're successful. You're actually being successful at that regard. Yeah. So
another benefit I would say is, although we both agree it's probably not the most efficient, it's the most consistent.
Yep.
And if you want to have one of the two, I would say consistency wins out most of the time than efficiency.
Yes. Yep.
So you'd probably rather have a consistent practice rather than
an efficient
practice.
Yeah, and I would say that's true. Because you could go, let's just say 2 times a week and be really efficient and do the right movements at the gym or the right moves on the CrossFit or right moves swimming. But, I'm going to say if you go 5 or 6 times a week, you're consistent. Maybe sometimes it's crap, sometimes it's good. After a year, you're probably going to come out ahead.
Yeah, and I think we both do that, 6 days a week for however many years. How many days have you had which are just
plus, right?
trash?
Exactly. I reckon I would have trained probably coming up to 700, 800 times, right? 700 to 800 times. And in amongst them, I'm going to say it's probably like 100 that were trash. 100 that would have been like, oh, man.
It's almost, from a physiological point of view, not much is getting done.
Almost better to not have done it. I'll say it's 10 or 15 where almost better.
I would say there's definite
ones. If I didn't go, it would have been better.
Yeah.
But the consistency over that length of time is better than the efficiency in getting it correct a lesser amount of time.
Yeah.
And that almost applies everywhere.
Totally agree. Yeah, I've had those myself. Just a trash handstand day where it's like, I can barely get up. Yeah. I can't do this, can't do that. I'm hurting my wrists. I'm more likely to get an injury.
But that, and look, when we put it together for the Mere Mortal Lights here, when you're talking about, like, where do we sit from the all-in perspective? I'm going to say I would sit more towards the spectrum that we should be more all-in.
Yeah, okay.
Than less. That's me. I don't know where you sit on that level.
Yeah, it's a hard one, because I look at people like David Goggins and I'm like, I don't think that mentality's healthy. Like, I don't think that it is good. But then
I see it as like, I see that too, but also it's like arousing. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Like, this is something. Like, every time I see Jocko post in the morning, like 4:04 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, I'm like, oh yeah, that gets me excited. I'm like, oh yeah, that literally makes me want to wake up the next morning early for like being like, yes, this is all in. If I can just get the shit done throughout the day, that to me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. So I'm that end of the spectrum of like, yes, this is what all in means. Like, just going so hardcore that like you wake up and you're going as hard as you possibly can until you hit your head, hits the pillow, and that's it. And you go again the next day.
Yeah,
that's kind of my mentality.
Yeah, I try to be conscious of my own blind spots and those real innate things, and this is more tending to more the innate. Like, for whatever reason, I find it unhealthy, but I can't particularly articulate why. And when I look at myself, it's like, I don't know, when I've some of the times in my life where I've achieved the most things and been able to tick off, conquering social anxiety. There was a period where 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, just going up and talking to girls for months straight.
Yep.
That's for me. That was my version of all in. Like, I couldn't handle more energy than that. That served me well. Like, that's been good for me. So,
and that's the other thing I want to say as well around this is that I think the most ideal position of being all in is to be all in a time frame, like in a time box sort of way. And that's what I was kind of at the beginning. I was saying, like, it's fantastic to be all in when you're reading for an hour and then getting the most out of it, and then having a conversation with people for an hour and then just being all in. Like when I go to meetups, like whether it's at the Bitcoin thing the other night or everything else, I'm all in with having conversations. Like, dude, I'm like bouncing around, talking to everybody. Like, I'm not there to chat with my mates, or I'm not there to, talk about, something else that's not related. Dude, I'm just there to like have conversations, have fun in that all in moment. But, it doesn't take away from the fact that when I go to the gym, I'm all in that. I think it also helps out that, like, you could say I'm all in for 2 months. Like, for 2 months, I'm going to train every single day. And then maybe backing off that. So I think there's, as long as you time box it, the all in sort of concept can work really well. But yeah, if you're all the way down to chopping your finger off to not have by being persuaded by a female, then I feel like you're getting to the point where it's like, okay, that's not healthy, dude. That's not healthy. That's not going to work. It's not helping you out.
I think that's a good piece of, I don't know, would you call that advice or knowledge, or something that's interesting is time boxing. I would also say the nuance part is real introspection. So being able to introspect and just finding out however it is that you do that, being able to extract yourself from that blinding mentality of this is only this, being able to explore the outside. Am I doing this for this reason? I'll give another example. I like to try and make this concrete. I was looking at Ethereum 2.0, Ethereum 2, I want to say 2.0 all the time, Ethereum 2 staking. And
proof of stake.
So there's Ethereum moving over to a different platform, and you can't do staking with it now because it's proof of work, not proof of stake. But you can do things where it's, you put your money into a group, your Ethereum, and they will use that to invest elsewhere or whatnot, and you will get a return on that. And I was trying to figure out, like, is it because I'm giving away my keys? And so I'm, not your keys, not your crypto. That's a pretty hardline stance, that a pretty good rule of thumb to follow. Is that the reason I don't want to do it? Or is it the reason that I've never been comfortable locking my money into just one thing? I've never bought a house or property for that reason. I always try and keep it pretty liquid. All I've invested in is stocks and other things where if I need to, I can take it out. So is it the not your keys, not your crypto that's stopping me from doing it? Or is it the fact that I obviously don't like putting my money in and for a X amount of period, which you have to do until Ethereum 2 is up and running? Is that the reason? So getting that introspective moment and being like, what am I doing here? Like, what's the real reason?
Yeah, okay.
I'm still not sure. I'd say it's probably more leaning the not your crypto side, but it's useful to find however it is that you can get out of your own head, look at something, and whether this be like, asking someone else to be objective. So, I could have asked you maybe like, one, what do you think the reason is I have yet to do staking? Or, talk with an advisor of some sort, meditate, whatever it is that
something
works
gives
well
you
for
like a sounding board, I guess.
Yeah. I think that is also very useful for combating the negative side of the all-in mentality.
Yep, that's a good point as well. That was a very good point.
That's all I've got. That's,
well, I want to end today's podcast with a shout-out. Shout-out. I think we need a shout, especially the YouTube, because obviously we just 100%. Talked to somebody who was watching us via YouTube. So do you want to do the honors? Do you want to give him a little shout-out? Anisha.
Thank you so much for coming by.
It's actually quite cool. So, look, again, I'm going to call it out. If you are in the Brisbane region, and look, we might do some travelling podcasts in the future. Who knows? We never know. But if you're in the Brisbane region and you got the balls like Anisha, come up and say good day. We will. Okay, so from now on, we will actually stop. Obviously, it becomes like 100 people. We'll have to consider this. But if you come up, we might stop the podcast and have a quick conversation with you. But it's super cool. That is super cool.
You can do it however you want. Like, you can just give us a wave if you want. You can say, hey, I really, if you stand by us like she did, she's sort of standing by politely. That was cool. Like us, our indication to be like, oh, shit. Yeah. Anisha's here.
That's right. So, if you want to sit down and wait for it. But in any case, obviously love seeing that there's some appreciation there out on YouTube and rewatching it on YouTube.
It's weird, man. It's weird when you find someone in real life and you're like, oh, geez, someone actually watches.
Exactly. You're like, well, and obviously there's the other, I was going to say, the mere mortalites. My question her is, what is it that brings you to listen to us and the daily? And for her, it almost seemed to me that she enjoyed the fact that we were pretty
real. She said real.
Real, but also consistent. In the sense that it's not efficient.
Yes.
We're consistent. Like, we're actually just we just put it out there. And look, sometimes...
Don't get me started about how inefficient I am with
But sometimes the podcast is going to
be
be crap, right? Like, sometimes the podcast is going to be like, we might talk about something that's not relevant to you. That's going to happen a lot of the time. But sometimes it's going to be good. But we do appreciate people like that who listen to us every single time that we post something. That's, super appreciated. And look, we won't forget, in 2032, we'll be sending you boost streams.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool. I don't know if it happens right now on the platform, but imagine if someone sends you a boostergram.
They're trying to make it so that you can reply to the boostergram.
Well, not just reply. Like, imagine if they send you a boostergram, 5,000 sats, and they go, really love this, going through a tough time, really appreciate you talked about this, and then you return back 50,000 sats.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
What?
Yeah,
that would be cool. I feel like that would be a great way. Again, a value for value. Like, you go, cool, I want to help you out because you've been helping me out for X amount of time.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Yeah. That would be... Imagine if like, it'd be me listening to Tim Ferriss or Kevin Rose or Jocko and just being like, I've listened to you for 400 plus episodes, love everything I want, bought a couple of shirts, whatever, and then they send back like a personalized little video plus some stats being like, really appreciate it, have this, get yourself a coffee or something like that. I'd be like, boo!
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But anyways, in that case, I'll leave it at that.
We actually had another very, very nice message from Katie from Two Girls on a Podcast. I'm going to be chatting with her soon.
That was a very, very nice podcast. Thank you. Good
absolutely
call
made my morning. So that's
Katie from...
That's 2 in a row. That's 2 in a week, Juan.
Yeah.
And you know what? All the boostergram messages, we're on a roll here, man.
I love when they say y'all.
Yeah,
y'all. Girls, I really appreciate that as well. That was, Karen listened to it first and then was like, you got to check this audio. Wow. And I was like, dang. Very nice.
Yes.
Very, very nice.
So, jeez. Don't want to cry here, but it is. I think we've somewhat broken through a barrier of grinding away in the darkness.
Yeah.
And through just connections, through being consistent, through improving the product that is the Mere Mortals, the quality. We're seeing that, and I definitely don't want to be Father, what was his name? Father Sergius, and doing stupid things and not seeing like the true correct path, which is giving back and being thankful. Don't want to become conceited. Don't want to take any of this for granted. So from the bottom of my heart, really do appreciate that. What can you do for us? Well, you're already doing a lot if you're like Anisha did, like Katie did. But if you want to share this with someone else, say, hey, the Mere Mortals, they're kind of cool guys. They give you shout outs if you say things to them. So
That's right.
That's the way to go. And
very good.
Once again, much appreciated.
Very much appreciated. Mere Mortalites, that's it. One out.
Karen out.
Bye.
Bye.